Welcome to Fraser 365. I'm Chris Montgomery, and today we're taking a look at the minor prophets of the Old Testament and asking God to speak to us through His Word. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to day 29 of the Minor Prophets. Today we start with Nahum. Our title is Announcing God's Vengeance. James Montgomery Boyce once wrote, "The wrath of God is not ignoble. Rather, it is too noble, too just, too perfect. It is this that bothers us." And Jerry Bridges wrote, "God, by the very perfection of His moral nature, cannot but be angry at sin, not only because of its destructiveness to humans, but more important, because of its assault on His divine majesty." Our text today is from Nahum chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. An oracle concerning Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum of Elkosh. The Lord is a jealous and avenging God. The Lord is avenging and wrathful. The Lord takes vengeance on His adversaries and keeps wrath for His enemies. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and the Lord will by no means clear the guilty. His way is in whirlwind and storm, and the clouds are the dust of His feet. He rebukes the sea and makes it dry. He dries up all the rivers. Bashan and Carmel wither. The bloom of Lebanon withers. The mountains quake before Him. The hills melt. The earth heaves before Him, and the world and all who dwell in it. Nahum characterizes his prophecy as an oracle and a vision. The word oracle in Hebrew is masa and comes from the verb nasa, which means to lift up. This word suggests lifting one's voice to make an announcement. The word oracle in the Old Testament denotes a prophecy directed towards a foreign nation. Nahum is the only Old Testament prophecy in which the entire book is described as an oracle. This oracle came in the form of a vision to Nahum. The word vision is chaza and signifies a vision seen in an ecstatic state. This is the same word used in Proverbs 29, verse 18. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. That's from the ESV. From the New Living Translation, when people do not accept divine guidance, they run wild. Nahum has a vision that results in this loud announcement of Nineveh's destruction. God's character is described in several ways in the first verses of Nahum. First of all, God is jealous. Warren Wiersbe explains God's jealousy. Jealousy is a sin if it means being envious of what others have and wanting to possess it. But it's a virtue if it means cherishing what we have and wanting to protect it. A faithful husband and wife are jealous over one another and do everything they can to keep their relationship exclusive. Jealous and zealous come from the same root. For when you're jealous over someone, you're zealous to protect the relationship. Since God made everything and owns everything, He is envious of no one. But since He is the only true God, He is jealous over His glory, His name, and the worship and honor that are due to Him alone. In the second commandment, God prohibited the worship of idols and backed up the prohibition with this reason: "For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God." That's from Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. And then Nahum describes God as vengeful 3 times in verse 2. In this same verse, God is characterized by wrath twice. Often the word vengeful is associated with sin. But since God is perfectly holy and just, God's anger is poured out against those who purposely disobey His law and oppose His people. While Nahum reminds us that God is slow to anger, he also states that God will not clear the guilty. That's in verse 3. God's power is displayed with great wrath toward anyone who continually opposes Him. Because God is jealous, He will powerfully protect His own. Notice this theme in the following scriptures. From Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 35, and this is from the NIV. It is mine to avenge. I will repay. In due time, their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them. Also from Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 41, still from the NIV. When I sharpen my flashing sword, and my hand grasps it in judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries and repay those who hate me. May Wiersbe's words help us understand God's character as we conclude today's devotion. God's anger isn't like human anger, which can be selfish and out of control. His is a holy anger, a righteous indignation against all that defies His authority and disobeys His word. God's people ought to exercise a holy anger against sin. You can see Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. For as Henry Ward Beecher said, a person that does not know how to be angry does not know how to be good. He was speaking, of course, about righteous anger that opposes evil. If we can stand by and do nothing while innocent, helpless people are mistreated and exploited, then something is wrong with us. Anger is one of the sinews of the soul, wrote Thomas Fuller. He who lacks it has a maimed mind. Some questions to consider. How does God's holiness demand righteous anger towards sin? In what ways does God's jealousy connect to His wrath? And finally, God had spared Nineveh under His prophet Jonah's preaching. Now, Nineveh's destruction was imminent. What does this teach us about God's patience and the ultimate consequences of sin? Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.